Hello everybody, my name is Mathew Owens and welcome to Masters of Real Estate. Today I'm going to talk to you all about how to avoid fraud and theft in your real estate business. It's actually way more prevalent than you could ever imagine, unfortunately, and there are multiple team members to try to mitigate this risk of fraud from, and it can happen in every aspect of your real estate business. So extremely important to do the right homework, to put the right quality control procedures and processes in place so that you don't get defrauded like I have multiple times throughout my 18 plus year career as a real estate investor and full-time in real estate since quitting my CPA firm job to go into this industry. And I can tell you right now, the number one culprit is contractors that are going to steal from you over and over again. I got stolen from by over $450,000 from one contractor. Pretty amazing. Luckily, I've been able to take a few additional punches in the face along the way, and I've been able to kind of wipe that off my shoulder and be able to focus and make more money and make that money back. Now, at the end of the day, there's some key things that I could have done differently that would have stopped that theft from the start, okay? So when I'm looking at these different theft metrics and some of the ways that people have stolen from us in the past, we should be going over each team member and talking about how to mitigate risk of fraud with that particular team member based on their experience and what they're doing for you and the money changing hands in between you and that secondary party. So let's talk about some of the team members and the ways that they can defraud you in different ways, and how do you mitigate that risk from the start, okay? So let's just talk about property managers, for example, right? We had one property manager misappropriate funds. They didn't have the funds inside the security deposit account like they should have. They were taking rents from the previous month or from the next month and paying out the previous month's rents because they were behind on their bank account. And so when you look at that, that is a big risk, and a big red flag for that would be getting your payments later and later in the month for the following month, and being careful and saying, hey, let me make sure I get all of my money back consistently every single month. Let me make sure that they have the proper reserves. Some of the things that I do to mitigate that risk is I put in my contracts now, if they are negligent or not managing my property or misappropriating funds or doing anything else that would constitute not acting in my best interest with regard to that asset, then I have the right to get out of that contract without penalty and move it immediately to a new management company. And that's one thing you can do, is have other management companies already vetted, already gone through, where you did your homework. You've asked them, 50 questions about their management, about their collection practices, their rehab practices and construction practices, their collections, their accounting practices, all these different pieces that go into a management company. You should be doing the homework up front on them to make sure that they answer those questions correctly and that they have their ducks in a row and have proper accounting practices and procedures, have proper collections, tenant communication, client communication, reviewing those reports. All of that stuff up front will stop red flags from the start. And the number one thing you can do is do background checks on those property managers. Pretty much every single team member that is going to have any kind of money flow to them or away from them, you should be doing a background check on to make sure that they're not fraudulent from the start. The contractor that stole money from us, I didn't do a background check, and that would have saved us a ton of money looking at his record now and how that actually occurred, right? So being careful up front and doing those background checks and doing the right homework on that operator up front, getting referrals, calling those referrals and those other people that have properties that are managed from them. Go out and get a list, a random sampling of properties that they manage, and go call those owners. Don't just go with the ones that they provide you as well. Some of the other things that you can do on the property management side is checking your statements every single month to make sure you don't have any reoccurring repairs that keep happening. What if you have a new AC unit that's needing to be replaced or something along those lines, and they just replaced it 6 months ago? All of a sudden they're having another replacement, or they have another big repair. keep an eye on some of those inconsistencies to sniff out fraud or just plain errors, right? It's hard enough for a property manager to get everything right and perfect, and they're gonna make mistakes. That doesn't mean it's fraud, but it's hard enough for them to do it right anyways, let alone if you find a fraudulent property manager. Maybe they don't do the right collection practices. They don't do the right renovation draws and the right I'd say quotes for you on your different, preventative maintenance that comes up on those contracts. So making sure you do that homework up front on them. You're doing proper checks and balances on a monthly basis for your rent collections as well, and making sure and verifying those rent collections as well. If someone's behind, you want to be able to verify that they really are behind, versus sometimes the manager, a bad manager, a fraudulent manager, will take those rents and say the tenant didn't pay, and then they'll start an eviction process and they'll somehow catch up, and they might rob another property to pay yours. So there's a lot of juggling that can happen. And I'll tell you from experience, 90% plus of business owners or small mom and pop business owners don't have their accounting function in line, are not properly educated on the right financial side of things to run their business, which is one of the biggest reasons businesses fail in the first place. Is the owner doesn't have the right team in place, or they don't have the right expertise themselves to be able to manage that accounting and finance function of the business, let alone all the other aspects, the marketing, the human resources, the accountability and processes and systems. There's so much that goes into running a business. It's incredible, and it's really difficult to perform even if you're an honest operator, or honest property manager. The next biggest one that goes out and defrauds you, like I mentioned, is contractors, okay? And so there's certain things you can do with those contractors as well. One, like I mentioned, background checks on every single one of those contractors. Go look at their previous work that they've done on their projects to see what work they've done. Talk to those owners. Talk to the people they've done work for. Did they perform? Did they do it timely? Did they come in under budget or above budget? Did they have change orders that came up? What problems occurred during that process? Because you can't just take someone that is going to give you a positive review of that person at their advice. They may not have an idea as to what a good or bad contractor is and what you should be able to expect out of those contractors. The second thing you can do is sign contracts. Make sure you're looking at all of their backup paperwork with regard to their entity formations, making sure that they have proper reserves in their bank accounts, because what can happen a lot of times is they'll go get construction draws from you, and then they'll need to go pay their subcontractors. Sometimes they don't have the money to pay those subcontractors, and so those subcontractors will file a lien against your property, and then you are stuck paying them and having to find a way to sue the actual direct contractor, which is very difficult because many times they don't have money. You're not actually going to get anything from them in the first place, so they might be judgment proof in that kind of situation, right? Plus, contractors can be notorious for hiding money and paying other people for those services instead of you doing that. And I had one contractor come to me one time and ask me, hey, what do I need to do from a financial side in order to get set up for a bond so that I can get audited financial statements? And I said, well, where's your books right now? How are you doing on your proper bookkeeping right now? And they said, oh, if I have money in the bank, that means that I'm doing okay. And that is a major problem, because they could have deposits from multiple different jobs coming in that they need to be allocating to different people. They need to pay their laborers consistently, whether they're working or not. Sometimes you have inspections and things like that that can occur that can stop labor from moving forward, and they still got to pay them, right? So making sure they have proper buffers in place and that they have a proper accounting function for each job they're working on, and they have buckets or trust accounts set up for those jobs can be really hugely beneficial. Secondly, making sure that your renovation bids are properly vetted up front so that you don't have a bunch of change orders that occur, right? Did they look at the foundation? Did they look at all the major systems? Did they look at the appliances and the final punch list walkthrough items that you're going to have on every single project that you do? So making sure that you document these things in detail up front, what needs to be done, and have a proper scope of work, have penalties if they're behind on their timeline, have bonuses if they're ahead of their timeline, right? Incentive for performance is very key. Secondarily, do checks and balances on their work. If they say, hey, my AC unit is installed, my plumbing and electrical is installed, did they get sign off from the city there? Can I see the permit? Can I get the sign off from the permit from the inspector specifically showing that they signed off? Can I send my own team out there to review that themselves? Having a rehab manager, a secondary outside rehab manager or inspector come in and look at your projects as they do construction draws will save you a ton of money. We've had contractors send us fake pictures, fake invoices, all different types of stuff to purposefully defraud us. And so now we go through and make sure every single draw has a inspector going out there every single time to make sure that doesn't ever occur again. And these are the things that we learned after doing this for years to stop this type of fraud from occurring in the first place. Even in our lending business, there is fraud that can occur from borrowers. We've had people submit fake proof of funds on with a photo. They did Adobe Photoshop of their proof of funds. Of course, they didn't use the same font as the rest of the form, so we were able to catch them with this, of course. But this type of thing is rampant, right? Borrowers will defraud you, contractors, property managers, realtors will not act in your best interest sometimes. Shocker that wholesalers can be fraudulent, right? So they'll go through many times and snake a deal from you if you give them any type of leeway or ability to contact the homeowner directly. If you've got a deal under contract, they'll of course lie to you about how much construction costs there are or the market values of those types of deals too. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're fraudulent. They just may not understand how to comp out a property correctly or how to understand what real cost of a renovation is, because many wholesalers don't understand those things because they don't do the work on the back end. They don't see that there's been a major increase in labor and increase in construction material costs and things like that occur. So there's a big difference between lack of knowledge and not being competent in a subject versus fraud and purposeful harm and due to fraud. So, all these different ways are things that people can do to defraud you. But if you put the right checks and balances in place, if you find ways of mitigating that risk through those right checks and balances and those proper segregation of duties with outside parties coming in each time, it will save you a ton of money long term with regard to your, real estate business and your ability to actually provide for your family and not take major hits that a lot of us real estate investors have had to learn the hard way by, just out there doing the job. So I hope this helped you guys create some value for you and helped you not get defrauded from contractors, property managers, realtors, wholesalers, and the whole 9 yards of all the different people involved in your real estate business. Thanks so much and have a good rest of the day. Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. 3 of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number 2, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number 3, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.